How much longer is Luke Fickell going to make it in Madison?
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into this bonus episode of Locked On the Portal. We're going to be talking all things on Luke Fickell. What's going on in Madison? Is he going to make it? I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst, and we are here to get to business, so let's not waste any time at all. I brought on my guy, Mr. Ryan Harings, Locked On Badgers, the eternal optimist, who even right now, I'm not sure how eternal that is. Maybe it's dimmed a little bit. Ryan, I didn't watch a single play of the game this past weekend, but I read a couple clips, saw a couple of little highlights. And then right before the show, I saw blocked punt, field goal. Like it's the substance that's like, those are all coaching things. At least that's how fans are going to look at it. And then you got beat by a true freshman quarterback when you're favored by 10 in your house. Is this rock bottom, or are we not there yet? Like what? I don't know. I honestly don't know what the first question to ask you, because Luke Fickell was obviously on the hot seat, but are they even at the bottom yet, or is there more to go down?
Gosh, that is equal parts sad and a very fair question. Is this rock bottom? I don't know. Like, was last year losing 42-10 to that Iowa team? I thought that was rock bottom, right? Giving up 42 points to that version of Iowa. And then you got beat 24-7 to Minnesota, your biggest rival in a game you had to win to go to a bowl. I thought that's probably rock bottom. And then you come out and you and I have talked about the schedule. This Wisconsin schedule is rough.
Legit, it is hard.
This was the game they had to get at home against Maryland, and they didn't just lose, Brian. They got smoked. They got bulldozed. So I was at the game. I was out there with a couple buddies, and I was speechless, man. And I tell you, the most dangerous part of this is I'm sitting up in I had a buddy hooked me up with a really nice box ticket, and we were up there. And, listen, some people that sit in the boxes typically are a little more inclined to be those big donor types, those more influential types. There's apathy up there. There's people around me that are just like, well, what did you expect with the way it's been? And I'm like, you can't be talking about what do you expect when you lose by 20 points to Maryland.
Yeah, they were down 20-0 and lost 27-10, but Maryland could have scored more. They got a lead and protected their freshman quarterback. Fair enough. Wisconsin's defense, I actually don't think is bad, but their offense puts them in terrible spots. Obviously, the special teams are a joke, so I'm just going to hit it. They're getting ready for their full week bye that starts right now. Any chance they fire him now or later in the season on a bye week, or is this we're just going to eat it and play it out because this contract is through 2031, correct?
Yep, 31-32, I believe, is where it's through.
Oh.
So this has obviously been a topic of conversation with Badger fans. Like, what's the end game here? Where's Luke Fickell at? I don't think this is just me speaking. I've not been told this. I'm not reporting this, but I don't think there's a chance they fire him in season. I just don't. Quite frankly, I don't see a lot of reason for in-season firings anyway, unless you have a guy on staff that you really think could be that next coach. Right when Paul Chryst was like, oh, Jim Leonard was on staff, it kind of made sense to make him the interim, see what happens. They don't have a guy like that on staff. And I don't think pivoting makes a ton of sense. So I don't see him being fired in season. I truthfully don't. I don't think it would help the situation. It would make fans happy for a little bit, and then you would just get smoked by the next team. So I don't see in season. After season, it's going to be a really interesting discussion depending on what happens these next 8 games. There is a substantial buyout attached to Luke Fickell, and fans don't want to hear it, but unless those fans have $20 million they're willing to come up with, they're going to have to hear it. And I don't know a better way to say that.
That's a problem. Here's the other part. I'll just throw this out. And again, the schedule is brutal. Like the game against Iowa, game against Minnesota, maybe Illinois. Any of those are possible, but they're probably not going to be favored in any game the rest of the year, is my guess. That's probably the way it is. Who would you hire? Who would even be on the short list? I always say it's not who you fire, it's who you hire. What are your thoughts?
That's a great question, man. I tell you, if it got to that point, a couple names that I'd be super interested in. I think the dream one might be Lance Leipold, former Wisconsin guy, coached at Whitewater. Has done more with less throughout the entirety of his career. He is a guy that fits the culture of Wisconsin. He's an in-state coach. That's originally where he got to start. I don't know if he'd ever leave Kansas, but certainly Wisconsin could offer an intriguing package that would beat Kansas in some ways. I think he'd be really interesting. I would kick the tires on Jim Leonard, who wanted the job. Leonard wanted the job. And I think if you bring in a guy like Len, now I think there is some bad blood between Leonard and the current athletic administration to some degree based on how it went down at the end of his tenure when he was the interim guy and he was kind of fighting for that job. But I would kick the tires there. He's a football guy. I think he's a high floor coach. He would go a long way, I think, in appeasing the fan base. Like, this makes sense. It feels like Wisconsin again. So those are a couple names that come out. Maybe Eck. And you look at the job Eck has done. He's also a former Wisconsin guy. So there's a couple names there that I'd be interested in if it gets to that point.
Last question for you, and I'll get you out of here on this. Is recruiting about to take a significant hit because of what's going on? Teams are negative recruiting. Is that going to really impact the Badgers on the trail?
I don't see how it can help them, right? You're not going to be better when you're looking like this. I will say they just picked up, and you and I did a show on Donovan Dunmore a couple of weeks ago, and they just picked up that commit this weekend. He was at this game, right? I do think, and I think you could speak on this really well too. I do think recruits care less about what happens win or loss on their visit than fans do. They don't
100%.
They don't care as much about that. They're about the connection with their positional coach, the distance from home, the NIL stuff. So I think it impacts it, but honestly, probably not as much as fans think it will, would be my guess on that.
All right, Mr. Harings, I will check on you, and we'll send psychiatrists your way along the season and each pitfall that you guys have. But thank you very much. Tell everybody where they can find your work.
Yeah, man. Always appreciate you, dude. For sure. All the times you've been on the show as well. People love you when you come on the show because they just love the truthful takes. Locked On Badgers. You can find me there for sure on YouTube, or Ryan and Bucky on Twitter. Either of those spots, good to go. And I will say, I'll end on this. I am an internal optimist. You know this about me. I'm not going to throw out the rest of the season. There's a part of it that just needs to see how the rest of the season goes. You still have 8 games. I don't see reasons for hope, but stranger things have happened. Let's see how the rest of them go. This is a really good spot for the bye. I'll say that. They desperately need to step away for a week.
Absolutely. You can find the Portal Podcast on Apple, Spotify, Podbean, and everywhere you get your pods. And, of course, on YouTube. We will see you again soon on the Portal Podcast.